Today is called Spy Wednesday. Our scripture reading is Mark chapter 15, verse 34, and our stage or touch point of grief is anger and bargaining. In some traditional Christian calendars, today is called Spy Wednesday because it is the day that commemorates Judas Iscariot's visit to the authorities to offer his services in betraying his rabbi. Judas Iscariot was one of those knives in Jesus' back that must have hurt the most, one of those moments of absolute abandonment by one of those whom he loved most. Judas Iscariot's actions in selling himself for the betrayal of Jesus led directly to Jesus' arrest, trial, passion, and execution on the cross. While he was on the cross, everything went dark. As Mark tells it, when it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" These have always been the hardest words in all of the scriptures for me. In Jesus' worst moment, in the depths of his physical and mental anguish, he felt something even worse: absence. And this wasn't just any absence. He felt the absence of God, the great God of all the cosmos, whom he had known as Abba, Father. I don't think we will ever understand the profound mystery of this moment. All I can gather is that Jesus, the Son of God, the incarnate God, had to experience the full depth of human suffering in order to save humanity. And the full depth of human suffering is absence, that feeling of being utterly alone. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, God withdrew God's presence, if only for a moment. Jesus had gone 3 hours in the darkness without saying a thing, but now he began to cry out loudly. This was something deeper than physical or mental anguish. This was absolute spiritual brokenness. Absence. I've only ever thought of Jesus' response in this moment of absence as words of hurt and pain. In this season of my life, though, I am beginning to see the possibility that they were words of anger. This makes sense, as anger is oh so often an expression of hurt and pain. And as such, anger is a significant stage or touchstone of grief. Jesus had spent a lifetime learning how to be the Messiah, growing into his identity as the Son of God. He had studied, prayed, wrestled with Satan, taught multitudes, healed people, exorcised demons, performed miracles, developed a new way of living, and laid the foundations for the kingdom of heaven. He was one of a kind, and only Abba, God, could understand the fullness of his uniqueness. And in that lowest of moments, Abba, God, left him. He was already grieving all that he would miss in leaving the earth, and all the pain that his own absence would cause. and now he had to grieve the absence of the one who was never supposed to leave. How dare God forsake him? After all that he had done and been through, how dare God forsake him? We, too, can and should feel anger as part of our grieving processes. We should feel anger at the forms of violence and oppression and power and greed that cause death and absence. We should feel anger at the very reality of death. We should feel anger at the absence of those who should not abandon us. We should feel anger at the profound brokenness of our world, especially for such a time as this. Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani. Ho Theos mu, esti engatelipes me. My God, why have you forsaken me? Amen. For today's spiritual practice, I encourage you to write a lament. This is an ancient form of emotional expression with no holds barred in terms of articulating anger and sorrow and pain. It can take any form you would like: poetry, a letter to God, a prayer. Be raw, be vulnerable, be honest. Say what you need to say about these current times or about other seasons of loss in your life. Say what you need to say about what happened to Jesus. As you meditate today, sing these lines from Taizé. O Lord, hear my prayer. O Lord, hear my prayer. When I call, answer me. O Lord, hear my prayer. O Lord, hear my prayer. Come and listen